I'm Vic Myers. Welcome to the Resistance. So watching these 50-51 protests today on various lives, various different social media channels, I was very impressed and hopeful. I'm a big believer in protests, but I'm also believe that they got to be done right. A lot of folks asked me to promote this before it happened, and I didn't because I couldn't find any information on who was behind it and what the agenda was. It was supposed to be, as I understand it, it was supposed to be a protest against Project 2025, but I didn't see that in the different protests that I checked into. I didn't see a coherent message across the board. Some people were protesting immigration, some people were protesting women's rights, and there wasn't a coherent, everybody on the same page kind of message. So that's what I saw, but the good news is people showed up. Today was evidence that the protest is still alive, and I guarantee you there's a lot of politicians looking today who are going to get worried about the fact that it is still possible to rally a bunch of people to show up all across the country and make some noise. That's the good news. Bad news is none of the national media, as far as I could tell, were covering it. Since people get their news from social media today, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Anyway, watching that and scrolling through the comments on my video this morning, and by the way, I apologize for the language. I don't like to talk like that, and I thought I could avoid it by waiting, but once I got started, I just got all fired up. Anyway, off the subject. Between the comments on my video this morning and watching the protests, I had an idea. We want a protest to be effective, right? Think about the Occupy Wall Street protest. A lot of people watching this video won't even know what that was because they weren't effective. They didn't have leadership and organization. It was basically a flash mob, and it didn't scare the politicians at all because there was no follow-up. There was no what happens after. It was basically a one-day event, or however many days it was, but it was a one-time event that didn't have any impact. Today's protests, they can be very impactful. I mean, they're going to make some impact because, like I said, the politicians are going to see that and say, uh-oh, people are getting fired up and people do know how to organize still. That's good news. But it can be even more effective. And this, in my opinion, is how. I got this idea watching the protests. I was thinking, what if after they left their capitals, what if they went to the Democratic Party headquarters in their state? Wouldn't that be grand? Because we're all upset about the lack of pushback, the lack of fight in the Democratic Party. So what if we did this again? What if we had another 50-51 protest, but instead of at the state capitals, and instead of on a Wednesday, we do it on a day that Congress is not in session, and that's easy because they're out in their districts more than they're in Washington, D.C., according to their calendar. So do it on a day when they're not in session. Everyone do it on the same day, and invite or challenge your elected Democrats at all levels to show up and speak to the people. Invite them to come and either tell you what they're doing to fight back, or challenge them to explain why they're voting for Felon 47's nominees, or why they're silent on so much of the stuff that's going on. Challenge them. I think if we followed today's protests up with protests at Democratic Party headquarters in every state, I think that might be the flame, if you will, that really lights a fire underneath the Democratic Party's backside. Just an idea, folks. If you know somebody in 50-50 or 50-51, suggest it to them. Good day.